It's Matt with Tips for Truckers over here, and today I'm going to give you 5 myths about going downhill. Steep grades, that is. Alright, number 1, and this is the number 1 I hear amongst truck drivers. So when an old truck driver gives you advice, a lot of times what they'll say is, oh, you just got to go down the hill one gear lower or in the same gear that you went up the hill. Now, generally, that would probably be good advice. But the problem is, going up the hill is not always as steep as going down the hill. Okay? And this one thing you really got to understand. The main thing about steep grades is it just takes experience. And once you get 1,000,000 miles, 500,000 miles, you get an idea of what speed you need to go down at, how steep the grade is. What you really need to do, and if anybody tells you, oh, you need to go down in 5th gear, 6th gear, whatever, or if they tell you got to go down 35 mile an hour, nothing's absolute. Okay, and that's the number 1 thing that you guys need to take away from this is there's no absolute speed, there's no absolute gear or anything to go down every hill in. Now, the rule is, for me, and I mean it's just common sense. So when you're going down the hill, you go to a speed where the Jake brake can hold it at about 1,400 RPMs. I don't know what gear that is. It's different on every hill. So let's say in my truck, let's say I'm going down a 6% grade. Usually I have to go about 30, 35 in 6th gear at 1,400 RPM. Now Matt, why do you say 1,400 RPM? Well, the Jake brake is more effective at higher RPMs. But here's the problem. You don't want to be at 1,600 RPM. God knows you don't want to be at 1,700 RPM. You might blow the engine after a while, especially with the Jake brake on. But anyway, because number 1, well, you want to be able to downshift. Number 2, the main thing, you want to be able to, if it gets steeper, it might need to accelerate a little bit. You hit the brakes, slow down. You need that little extra cautionary room. And a lot of these trucks have rev limiters where, you can't downshift if you're above 1,500 RPM. It just won't rev higher than that. And there's good reasons for that because you'll blow up the engine in a lot of these ones. More on that later. Number 2, and this is one that really bothers me, and this is not amongst truck drivers. This is either rookies or people who've never driven a truck that just hear about Jake brakes and know how trucks work. The Jake brake does not work miracles. Now, it'll assist you in going down the hill and slowing down. I always drive my Jake brake on. But it's not some miracle where you can go down the hill at any speed. You flip on your Jake brake, magically it's you can maintain a speed. No, you'll still be able to run away with the Jake brake on. Speaking of the rookie myths, here's another one you hear, and they'll teach you this one and the next one in trucking school. And this is one thing I really got a problem with. That's a lot of people will tell you that runaway trucks, smoked brakes, brakes on fire, is due to low air pressure from using your brakes too much. Well, let me tell you guys, if you're doing your pre-trip, you know what's going on with your truck. There's absolutely, you should be able to pump the brakes constantly, and not, your compressor should be able to keep up with it. I don't know where that got started, but a lot of people will say, like in trucking school, they'll say, oh, you pump the brakes too much, or you're using the brakes too much and you run out of air, and then your brakes expand and they're engage, and then that's how they get hot. No, I mean, it's just from using your brakes too much and going down too fast and not in the appropriate gear. But that brings me on to the fourth myth over here. And this is, they'll always teach you this in trucking school, and it's 100% wrong. They'll tell you to use a technique where they called, when I was in school, they call it stab braking, but I know they use it in almost every school, and it's absolutely 100% the wrong thing to do. First of all, you're always better off using a constant pressure if you have a brake gauge around 10 psi or so of brake pressure. You know, if you're going down at appropriate speed, even, and let's say you're going down a little bit too fast, keep it. You have to use your brakes. Just keep it at 10 psi of brake pressure, and no more. And if you can maintain your speed that way, if not, you need to slow down, maybe come to a complete stop and let your brakes cool off before going down the rest of the hill. But consistent brake pressure, if you have to use your brakes, use consistent brake pressure rather than being hard on the brakes and then letting them off and cool off. They're not going to cool off in 30 seconds, guys. All right. Now, this brings me on to the fifth one. And I don't hear this one a lot. I just want to throw this one in here for number 5. I only hear it from people who, you know, haven't really driven a truck that much. And they say, oh, you just need to downshift. Oh, if you start going down too fast, just downshift. And this goes back to what I said earlier. And it really bothers me. And it kind of ties in with the whole Jake brake working miracles thing. Is you can't just downshift and then all of a sudden your truck's going to slow down and some miracle is going to happen and you're not going to be running away all of a sudden. First of all, like I said, the rev limiter. Second of all, as soon as you shift, and I'm going to do a video on this maybe, as soon as you shift, if you're off the brakes, that truck's going to go, and you may, if you downshift, you may end up having to go to the next higher gear, actually, because just that time between there, your truck speeds up a lot quicker than normal. So, well, I'll just do brief about the technique. You keep your left foot easy on the brake, 10 psi, and then while you're remaining on the brake, you blip the throttle to downshift. And you got to give it a little bit more throttle than you usually do, because even with your foot on the brake, you're still going to accelerate a lot more than you think. Try not to ever shift when going down a steep grade. That's probably the biggest thing, man. You see, you start going down without your Jake brake, you flip on your Jake brake, you'll probably be all right. But the biggest thing when going down a hill, if that thing gets out of gear and you can't find a gear to go into, you're done. You're on a hope and a prayer. Because it's like no matter what you do wrong with your brakes, the absolute worst thing is to get it out of gear. And that sucker will just take off, man. So, it's the 5 myths about steep grades, and I'll probably do a video later on about what techniques of going down steep grades. But I'm running out of time here. This is Matt with Tips for Truckers. Hey, be safe out there.